Alrighty, we'll go ahead and get started. So happy Food Waste Prevention Week, everyone. It's an exciting week to talk about the issue of food waste and to highlight great initiatives that we have going on, especially here in Region 4. I wanted to say just thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of the first webinar in the Food Waste Prevention Week webinars that we have going on. This week is going to be filled with all kinds of informative webinars and virtual meetings to help promote the great initiatives that EPA Region 4 has going on. So my name is Caleb Powell, and I'm an environmental scientist for the Office of Sustainable Practices at the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. This is actually my first Food Waste Prevention Week, so very excited to be here helping out and hosting for our amazing speakers this morning. Like I said, I'll be hosting the webinar today, and if you have any issues at all, let me know, reach out to me, and I will try to help you with audio issues or anything back of the house when it comes to these webinars. So a couple housekeeping things. Everyone is muted upon entry to reduce the amount of background noise. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and we do hope that you ask some questions. If you have any type of comments on the programs that are going on or any of the slides that you see and you want more information about that, please feel free to ask those questions in the chat box. I'll be checking those and asking those to our speakers throughout the webinar today. What I'll do right now is I'm actually going to go ahead and just send a chat to everyone. So over on your right side, you should be able to see a little drop down chat box. Now, when it says send to, you can do to all participants. I'll get that, but just at least make sure that it's either host, it's got the word host in it, or all participants or all panelists, just so that I'll definitely be able to see that and make sure that our speakers get those questions. And you can also raise your hand with the little hand emoji that's underneath the participants. That way, if you want to just ask your question yourself and not ask it through the chat box, then I can go in and if I see that you've got your hand up, I can unmute you and you can ask those questions yourself when we get to the questions and answers portion of the webinar. So our presenters have an outstanding wealth of knowledge when it comes to food waste and food prevention, or food waste prevention, I mean. So I'm excited to learn from everyone that we've got here today, and I hope that you guys are ready to learn a lot too. So I will pass it over to Elaine Fior. She's going to do a small little welcome and get us started.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Elaine Fiore of the Food Conservation Alliance and Broward County Public Schools. I have the honor of spearheading Food Waste Prevention Week, and on behalf of our planning team, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for choosing to join us today. The intention of this week's webinar series is to complement the Food Waste Prevention Week social media campaign to further raise awareness and inspire action around reducing food waste. And the week itself evolved in the spirit of collaboration between California and Florida, and then Florida and Oregon, and now it's expanding for all of us to collaborate. So the webinars serve as a great space for us to come together in community, to share ideas, and learn from leaders in the field. So as a side, if you have not already, please follow us at Save the Food FL this week and repost what you like. This morning, we will be hearing from Kim Chirick of EPA Region 4, who will give us a national overview, followed by our state leaders sharing their work to reduce food waste. The next session will be presented by Harvard Food Law and Clinic Policy. Really, it's Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic, as well as high school juniors from Virginia Beach who have been taking action to change policy. The day will finish up hearing from our MVPs in reducing food waste and addressing food insecurity, our food banks, and they will also be telling you a little bit more about the food bank challenge taking place during Food Waste Prevention Week. So without further ado, again, we'd like to thank all of you for joining us and for our speakers today. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you the lovely Kim Cherrick.
Okay, my speakers are on, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kim Cherrick, and I work for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in Region 4. Our regional office is located in downtown Atlanta, and Region 4 is the largest of EPA's 10 regions. Region 4 includes Alabama, Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And if you go to the next slide for me, Caleb, my presentation will include both EPA's national and regional efforts to reduce and prevent food waste, but I'm required to share with you this statement, which basically means that if I reference anything in my PowerPoint, EPA is not endorsing, recommending, or favoring anyone. Next slide. EPA was established in 1970 by the U.S. Congress and President Nixon, and our mission is to protect human health and the environment. As a physical scientist in the Land, Chemicals, and Redevelopment Division, my work and priorities are in the area of sustainable materials management. Our goal is to help strengthen the recycling infrastructure across the Southeast. Sorry, I got distracted by something in the room. And also includes the sustainable management of food. We often partner with other agencies, nonprofits, businesses, governments, tribes, schools, and communities. So reducing food waste has been an EPA priority for at least the last 13 years. Today, 7.3 billion people consume 1.6 times what the Earth's natural resources can supply. By the year 2050, the world's population is estimated to reach 9 billion, and the demand for food will double. We can't double the amount of food, and fortunately, we don't have to. We have to double the amount of food available. We have enough food to feed everyone, but it doesn't reach everyone who needs it. Next slide. When we waste food, the land, water, energy, and other inputs that are used in producing, processing, transporting, preparing, storing, and disposing of food are wasted as well. Preventing food loss and waste can reduce greenhouse gas emissions along the entire food supply chain, from farm to disposal. More than 85% of greenhouse gas emissions from landfill food waste result from activities prior to disposal. So these embedded greenhouse gas emissions are one of the reasons why preventing food waste from going to waste in the first place is so impactful. Next slide. So what's EPA doing nationally to prevent food waste? Well, in 2015, EPA and the USDA announced a national goal to reduce food loss and waste by 50% by the year 2030. But we were basically diverting food waste from the landfill and combustion facilities. So recently, we took another step. We aligned with the International Sustainable Development Goal Target 12.3, which means our national goal is challenging us to prevent food waste and keep food in the human supply chain instead of just diverting it from landfills and incinerators. Next step. I'd like to briefly mention the congressional support EPA is receiving. The bipartisan infrastructure law provides our program with $350 million in grant funding over 5 years, and the Build Back Better Act could potentially provide more organics and waste reduction. So we're just starting to build these grant programs, and one of our goals is to ensure that this unprecedented investment will not only expand access to recycling across the country, but also help communities increase opportunities to reduce, reuse, and compost materials, including food. So next slide. So to put that in context, EPA is working on a circular economy strategy, which has 6 parts. The first 3 parts we are presently tackling. And so let's go to the next slide. Regarding the food and organic strategy, EPA started reaching out to stakeholders in December for their input on how to prevent food loss and waste and expand organics recycling. So the next slide. The purpose of the food and organics strategy is to identify objectives and actions stakeholders in the food supply chain can take to prevent retail, food service, and household waste household food waste by 50% by the year 2030 and to reduce anything remaining. So next slide. I know I went through that pretty rapidly. In addition to providing a popular EPA tool called Food Too Good to Waste, which teaches you how to prevent food waste at home, EPA hosts a monthly Food Too Good to Waste peer network, next slide, where we convene state and municipal government staff who are working to reduce food waste with a focus on household food waste prevention and campaigns. And you can join by emailing Claudia Fabiano, and this is her email address. For households specifically, EPA has a newly updated household food waste prevention tips page, and that's this link below. So let's talk about what's going on right here in Region 4. In 2020, EPA Region 4 teamed up with our colleagues in Region 3. Their regional office is located in Philadelphia. And this time, we were stepping into the prevention arena at the top of the food recovery hierarchy, where food loss can begin on the farm. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information. The estimated unharvested surplus farm produce is approximately 18.6 billion pounds, while only 47.5 million pounds are actually gleaned. So we recognize this as an enormous opportunity. Region 4 divided up our grant funding dollars and spun out several regional pilots between 2020 and 2021 around solving these gaps in our food system. So the slide we have up right now was to help our gleaners, we funded the Association of Gleaning Organizations to build the capacity of food rescue entities in Region 4 in order to increase gleaning and to reduce food waste by delivering 9 technical assistance webinars, 120 hours of one-on-one technical support conversations, and 10 volunteer training videos. Next slide. Working with the City of Atlanta on an urban solution in vulnerable Atlanta communities, we funded the Food Recovery Network, a student-originated nonprofit with chapters around the country to educate and deploy student chapters around gleaning produce and to identify new surplus markets to get local produce into Atlanta's vulnerable neighborhoods. But this project had a new twist. EPA also wanted the Food Recovery Network to make sure this project was sustainable, to make sure that the farmers get paid for their produce. And if a gleaning organization is involved, they're paid, even if that means only covering the cost of transportation. Because as you know, that's where a great deal of the expense comes from. Next slide. This project included developing a relationship with farmers, connecting with local nonprofits and for-profits, figuring out packaging and transportation from the farm to a hub and from a hub to end markets. During this project, we adopted a motto: we'll sell what we can and donate the rest. Currently, the Food Recovery Network is wrapping up this project, having recovered nearly 16,000 pounds of produce, engaged 10 stakeholders, and with 95% of the produce going to communities in need. Next slide. Through relationships we built with the City of Orlando and an EPA Local Foods, Local Places funding for the city of Fort Pierce, Region 4 was able to connect with grassroots organizations like United Against Poverty and Poor Roots in Florida. These nonprofits have the ability to mobilize and pop up in critical communities and have figured out the secret to sustainability in Orlando. And soon, Poor Roots will be coming to Atlanta with their know-how. And here's a quick video intro we received from 4 Roots for you.
The 4 Roots Produce Rescue Program offers an approach to solve both food.
Hey, Kim, if you'll mute out so it won't, perfect.
Okay. If I'm back. Lastly, reaching out to our state government partners in Tennessee with their connection to gleaners like the Society of St. Andrews, an experienced and well-known national gleaning organization known for its charitable work, Region 4 was able to fund their project to develop a data-driven understanding of on-farm food loss, as well as the economic value of that food loss by county. And Tennessee is going to tell you about their project shortly. Next slide. So wrapping up, additional resources can be found here at Sustainable Management of Food, our link, and as well as tips and all kinds of fact sheets and partnership programs. So next slide. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Kim. So next, I would like to introduce Chris Perry. He's from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and he's going to sort of tell us a little bit about what they've got going on down in Florida. So let me pass it on over to you, Chris, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks so much, Caleb, and welcome everybody to the second Food Waste Prevention Week. Florida Department of Environmental Protection is really proud to be the second year running a planning partner of the event, and just a great shout out to Elaine and all the great work she's doing, and Kim as well here in Region 4. My name is Chris Perry, again with Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Mine's going to be really kind of a quick update here, just to kind of set the table for a lot of things going on here in the region. And really, just to kind of talk about what we've been doing down here in Florida is we've really been working in partnership with local, federal, state governments, non-governmental organizations, really to assist in identifying strategies for successful community compost programs. We really think that here in Florida, the opportunity to boost and expand community composting here in the state is one of the key ingredients to really reducing food waste. So really also kind of to set the table in 2020, FDEP commissioned the Department of Environmental Engineering Sciences at the University of Florida to really summarize and quantify food donations transferred throughout the state, catalog tools for recording and transferring food donations, and determine the extent of the environmental benefits of food recovery. This study provided recommendations for FDEP to improve food donation documentation, including increased education for county recycling coordinators, the inclusion of food waste as a recoverable material, and increased communication between food donation stakeholders. Now, I'll have the final report in the chat here a little later. Just wanted to avoid putting it during my program, just to avoid possible computer slowdown, but it's also available on our main page at our FDEP website. You know, as I stated really before, community composting, really we think expanding programs is going to be the cornerstone. So the stakeholders that we're really looking are seeing organics reach its full potential here in Florida. And 3 great examples of recent successes in advancement of local community composting can be found in Leon County, the city of Orlando, and the city of Gainesville. In 2021, Leon County instituted an organics recycling pilot program that offered participating residents a centralized drop-off location for food scraps and containers for at-home collection. In 2021, the city of Orlando expanded their existing compost program to include multiple drop-off locations at participating farmers market locations, and also instituted a program that offered free backyard composters to single-family residents within the city limits. In 2022, the city of Gainesville began a pilot program in multiple neighborhoods. While in all 3 programs, residents within the designated areas were provided buckets to collect their food waste, Gainesville's program offered participants free pickup at curbside. You know, we certainly look forward to any effort to expand and improve these programs, because these models, as I said, are really the future of diverting food waste from landfills here in Florida. Another unique community solution to reducing food waste is the Community Fridge Program. In Indian River County, Sue Flack, our recycling coordinator, really looked around to see a place where she could establish a zone to really make food insecure families throughout her county have the available food that they need. And she found it really in a location between Fellsmere City Hall and the Boys Club of Indian River County. We really look forward to seeing some success from Sue's Fridge Program, because as 1 in 4 families here in Florida are food insecure, and it being open 24 hours is just a great opportunity for families to take advantage of bringing food to their table. And then really the last, what we consider our most important contribution to reducing food waste is our organics rule is currently being looked at, opened up for reconsidering, basically improving a lot of the facets of that particular rule. And one of those things that we're going to look to change is updating organic material and processing definitions. And one of the most important ones is we're going to add community composting now to that, so that it becomes a much more, well-defined, not a pun, but well-defined essence of, diverting food from the landfill. So, and what is important about this is we're also going to be basically consolidating the food waste definition from having pre- and post-consumer waste. And we think that expanding that definition, to include pre- and post-consumer food waste is really going to help expanding these residential programs. So we think that's an important component of it as well. We are also going to be looking at the over 300 SOPs we have operating in Florida, instituting an operations plan for registered facilities. We think that will help us better able to track the food waste and the organic material passing through these facilities. And also, we looked at creating a tiered structure. We're going to propose that because previously we had a lot of overlapping processes and permitting, thresholds. So we want to make sure that it's really clear to the operations, and also new exemptions that we're hoping will boost these community programs. Really, one of the exemptions we'll be considering is compost operations up to 100 cubic yards would be exempted, and also looking to combine yard trash to the 100 cubic yard threshold as well. So, a lot of things we're trying to do. We're looking to hopefully have some workshops and opening up for, comment and community feedback here in the summer coming up soon. But really, just a few things that we're doing here in Florida, and we really, again, appreciate Food Waste Prevention Week, Elaine and Kim, for the opportunity to provide this update. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Caleb.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's great to hear about what other states in our region have going on and how we can collaborate. So thanks for that update. Next, we will pass it on over to Ashley Cabrera. She is with the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, used to be Office of Policy and Sustainable Practices. Now we are just the Office of Sustainable Practices. So I will pass it on over to you, Ashley, and the floor is yours.
Awesome, thanks. I guess when you give me presenter capabilities, it unmutes me, so I just double did it. Can everyone hear me? You good?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, like Caleb said, my name's Ashley. I oversee the Get Food Smart TM program at DHEC, and I'm just going to just give you all an overview of that program today and some other things we have going on. So this week is our first Food Waste Awareness Week, and thanks to the leadership in Florida, Elaine and her team. We saw such a great job that they did last year, and so we're like, we want to jump on that, and so we are hosting our own this week in Tennessee, and then the week will end with a few events across the state where we have partnered with breweries and local bakeries to take bread that would have been wasted and they've made it into a specialty craft beer. We'll also have education, outreach, a statewide food drive is all part of that, so we're very excited and hoping that the rain does not come. We are in Tennessee, so anything is possible. So Get Food Smart TN, our mission is to promote using food wisely and to enhance the sustainability of Tennessee's food resources. We launched it back in 2018, and it has three main components. There's education and outreach, a recognition program, which we have 192 participants in, so we recognize their efforts to reduce food waste and to increase food recovery and diversion in Tennessee. And then technical assistance, which can range from helping with workshops, doing composting, standard operating procedures, however we can help. That's what the technical assistance is for. And of course, outside of this, we do work in the food waste space as far as policy and partnerships and potential granting programs. So lots of promotion, and we have 10 partners across the state that we work with to promote the program and the education and outreach that we do, and that's really made it successful. With education, our main spot or portal to take people is our Get Food Smart TN website. We have many resources on there, and we have it broken up based on what entity. So specific page for restaurants, for government entities, nonprofits, schools, and everyday consumers. So like I said, you know, promotion of best practices in education. So we've done a few videos with some participants in our recognition program. One I always like to highlight is Luby's Pizza in Chattanooga. They have a circular approach. So they have a farm, and they use stuff on their farm and even the animals, and use that in their pizzas. And then all the food scraps from prepping goes back to the pigs on the farm, and they actually just started last year being able to compost, so they actually send zero waste to landfill, which is quite an accomplishment. So like I said, recognition program is one of the components. So organizations just have to satisfy at least 5 up to 30 criteria under their respective category. And that's just a screenshot of the map that we have online where we recognize our participants and then also our 10 partners across the state. So I want to highlight a few technical assistance things that we've done. Of course, the pandemic in 2020 kind of put a halt on things. As far as in-person, definitely didn't stop us from continuing to create lots of great resources to share virtually. But we hosted our first workshop in January 2019, and that was a huge eye-opener on what approach we should take in tackling food waste across the state. every area is dealing with food waste in a different way. And so we thought, you know, let's start a roadshow. So this workshop led to that roadshow. And so each city in Tennessee that we've worked with so far, we help them deal with food waste, find a solution for what fits them. So we've done some lunch and learns and panel discussions in Memphis and Chattanooga, and we have plans for more before the pandemic, but those are hopefully to be planned in the next year or so. So like I said, our website, educational resources that we have are some food waste posters and then also brochures that are specific to each entity. We've made a meal planning notepad, which we encourage people to use to plan their meals out for the week and put their grocery list right there next to their meals so that they're not buying too much at the store, or, you know, how many of us have ended up at home with extra things and we already had it. So, and then we've made several infographics on source reduction, food date labels, upcycling, food donation, food donor liability protections, and a few more. And then back in 2022, we did a webinar series that touched on each part of the hierarchy. Here's some examples of some of our infographics. We really like using Canva, and that really makes you know, the things that we use just really great to view and really easy to go through and learn. I know this was mentioned already, so we've been helping the Society of St. Andrew, thanks to some funding from EPA, to help figure out how much surplus produce are in the fields after harvest, and to really use the data that we get to support our agricultural community, which is big in Tennessee. So Society of St. Andrew staff and volunteers have been visiting farms throughout Tennessee and gleaning the excess produce and then collecting data in the field. And then, of course, what they collect, they then donate to local agencies. So, you know, in field season 1, they focus on establishing relationships and start collecting data from a few farms. And it's amazing the data we got just from at least the first 2 farms. It was amazing. And in field season 2, which we're in, we're hoping that it will be more fruitful in terms of data collection. And it will run through September of 2022. And then a report will be created with findings and suggestions on ways to further support the farmers and agricultural industry. So that was our program in a nutshell, but I'm happy to answer any questions when we get to the Q&A, but thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's always great to hear about the great work we've got going on in Tennessee, and great to hear from you who really started the Get Food Smart TM program. So thanks for that. Next, we have Wendy Worley. She's going to be talking about North Carolina. And let's see, I am going to, you're good to go, Wendy, whenever you're ready.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for having me today. Thanks to Elaine and the organizers of the event for inviting the state of North Carolina to participate in Food Waste Prevention Week. In particular, a shout out to my South Carolina colleagues who connected us with the organizers of the event and suggested we get involved. We are really pleased because this is the first year that we are participating in a Food Waste Prevention Week, and we are happy to share some news with you today. So next slide. Caleb?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not make myself the presenter.
That's okay. Anyway, just wanted to ground you all a little bit in our agency. Like many of my other state colleagues, I work for the state agency that's charged with protecting the state's natural resources. And the North Carolina DEQ mission is to provide science-based environmental stewardship for the health and prosperity of all North Carolinians. And I think that's really applicable, and in particular to food waste that we'll be talking about today. I manage a team of recycling professionals in the Recycling and Materials Management section, which is a non-regulatory part of our agency. We provide technical assistance to local governments and recycling businesses to reduce the state's waste, to grow the state's materials recovery infrastructure, and to build a more circular economy throughout the state. And we do this by providing statewide data, reports, and studies that inform decision-making and encourage environmental stewardship and the recovery of recyclable materials. We provide grants both to local governments and to recycling businesses to incentivize and to accelerate investment in recovery systems and markets throughout the state. And in particular with food waste, I mean, why, of course, are we talking about this? I think Kim really set the stage for a lot of the reasons why food waste is such an important part of the conversation when we talk about waste reduction. We know that wasted food is, from the EPA study, makes up the largest segment of the landfill waste stream, and almost a quarter of all landfill material is actually food. As a country, the United States generates about 160 million tons of food waste each year, and all this lost tonnage doesn't even account for all the agricultural resources, the water, the fertilizer, the energy, and the land that all are impacted for every crop grown. So in addition to this, the processing of this, of growing and harvesting these materials produces a massive amount, or uses a massive amount of energy. And the EPA determined that this energy use is responsible for approximately 8% of the human-caused greenhouse gas emissions contributing to the planet's warming climate. So what has our agency done? One of the things we've been active in is producing outreach materials and that are customizable for locals to use to support organics recovery throughout the state. We've made projects a priority in our grant making that address composting, the increased use of composting at local levels, and also to expand the diversion of organic materials into composting operations and others across the state. We have a focus on food waste, but we know that we needed to broaden the scope a little bit. Next slide. So recently, our agency took data from the US EPA's Excess Food Opportunities Map, and we also pulled data from the REFRED Surplus Food Summary to estimate the total amount of food waste that is generated in the state of North Carolina. And we found that almost 2.5 million tons of waste were generated from all three sectors for food waste alone. So that includes residential, agricultural, and commercial food waste that is generated throughout the state. And then we knew that we needed to kind of compare that. Like, that's a lot of waste, but what can we do? How much capacity do we have to compost that material? So we know we have a lot of pretty strong compost operations, commercial compost operations throughout the state of North Carolina, but we wanted to compare their operational capacity to take in what amounts of food waste can they take in compared to the total generation of food waste in North Carolina. And what we found was pretty staggering. There is a 2.1 million ton gap in the generation versus the processing capacity of food waste in North Carolina. So we estimated that our commercial compost facilities currently can only have 350,000 tons of operational capacity, causing that 2.1 million gap. So we know from this large gap that there is a lot of work to be done in the state of North Carolina and honestly across the nation. So we are engaging with a wide variety of stakeholders and partners, and we know that this will be a multi-year process and an ongoing process. We are looking for input. We're so happy to participate in this event this week to learn from other stakeholders, other state agencies, and develop some partnerships to help tackle the issue. Next slide. This is also a map I wanted to share with you. My staff, who is just phenomenal, helped put together this map that compared that commercial food waste generators that we across the state and mapped out, you know, a heat map of where that food waste is being generated. So it really gives us a nice visual of where those food tons are and in comparison to our commercial food waste composters. So we know that there's a lot of work to be done both to reduce food waste in the first place, but also to divert more material to the composters and then to generate more operational capacity for those facilities. Next slide. And I want to also acknowledge some early adopters. So we in North Carolina have known that food waste is a major issue that we need to tackle in thinking about our waste reduction and thinking about our greenhouse gas emissions and thinking about our climate change. So we know that this has been the case. It wasn't until we did this last study that I just shared with you that we realized just the amount of work that is ahead of us. But I do want to recognize some early adopters. So across the state, we've had several counties in North Carolina, Orange, Henderson, Wake, to name a few, who have implemented residential food waste drop-off collection programs at their county convenience centers. So those have been in place for a number of years and are starting to make a dent. This is for residential food waste collection and has really shown some major successes. In addition, we are proud that the city of Durham is our first city in the state to pilot a residential curbside collection of food waste. And our office worked with the city to develop educational materials for the pilot that included the container labels, providing instructions about what to compost in the food waste collection, and that's what you see on the slide. So the outreach materials that we have developed these templates so that we can customize that for our local governments across the state or other service providers that want to use this educational material, trying to make it simple and easy and try to get some consistent messaging, not only on our recycling side for traditional materials, but also some consistent messaging around food waste composting. So with this week, we are really pleased to tell you that we are announcing that we're launching a new campaign to use the food in North Carolina. We know there's so much more to do to encourage the reduction of food waste across the state. So we are following the footsteps of our other state colleagues who have food waste reduction campaigns. And this is our new logo that we are sharing with you all to begin that process. We are going to be sharing public information messages around food waste reduction, but this site will also provide a clearinghouse of information as we work with other partners to provide technical information and resources on how to reduce food waste across the state. In addition, our state agency, our sister state agency called Waste Reduction Partners, just recently received an EPA grant to prevent food waste loss and waste. And part of their work will be incorporated into our larger Use the Food North Carolina campaign. And that work will provide technical resources in particular to commercial and industrial generators of food waste, case studies, and guidance documents on how to reduce food at those particular locations. And of course, we are very pleased to be sharing some social media messages for Food Waste Prevention Week. We have co-branded some social media messages, as you can see here, and we will be sharing these throughout our network all week. We also promoted the hackathon and the art contest through our environmental education networks across the state. And I'm also very proud to announce that just this morning, the North Carolina Governor, Roy Cooper, has made an official proclamation that this week, April 4th through 8th, 2022, is Food Waste Prevention Week in North Carolina. So I'm very proud to say that our governor has been engaged on this issue and is encouraging all citizens in North Carolina to take part and to learn more about how to reduce food waste across the state. And I wanted to share my contact information. Happy to engage with you all. As I shared, we are definitely building our campaign and look forward to creating some more partnerships and learning from you all about how we can be effective in this area.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's so, like I say this every time that one of you finish, it's just so exciting to hear how there's a lot of buy-in from, you know, the higher ups in state government for such an amazing cause. So thanks for all you do, and thanks for sharing with us. Next, we are going to, last but not least, we have Ada Gordon. She's the program lead for in the Department of Health and Environmental Control for South Carolina. She's a program lead for Don't Waste Food South Carolina. So I'm going to pass it over to her, and she's going to let us know what they're doing in South Carolina.
All right. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thanks, Caleb. Thanks, everybody else who went before me. Well, everyone so far has been incredibly professional. Something you need to know about Don't Waste Food is we try to embrace the fact that we're the only section in the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control that is non-compliance, non-enforcement, and non-regulatory. So we're a little more casual. We try to have a really good sense of humor about what we're doing. So you'll see that in this presentation, I think. What I do want to say is we have a very similar story to all of the folks who have just presented. So yeah. If you live in South Carolina, you hear the name DHEC a lot, and you certainly have the past 2.5, 3 years, and you don't love it. So a lot of times when I go to talk to folks, they say, what does DHEC have to do with food waste? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Your shots and your COVID data, and you do the, hopefully the letter A on the front of my favorite restaurant. So what does that have to, what does that have to do with food waste prevention? So DHEC is divided into 2 sections, really. It's actually more like 8 or 10, but as of right now, it's the environmental affairs area and the health area. So I'm over there in environmental affairs. We do everything from underground storage tanks to food waste prevention. I'm in the Office of Solid Waste Reduction and Recycling, which has recently grown to include our grant funding. So I handle collegiate grants, including things for food waste prevention and recovery. So there's me, in case you can't see my little video picture. That's a much more flattering image of me. And I manage Don't Waste Food SC campaign. So historically speaking, just a little background, our campaign was founded in 2016. It actually was founded approximately 1 month before I started working in the office. We founded everything on 3 tenets: prevention, donation, and composting, based on that EPA hierarchy of what to do with wasted food. The concept was basically, what 3 things can people actually do and do with a little bit of ease and agency and feel confident in? Everyone can do something to prevent. Everyone can figure out how to donate. And generally, if with a little effort, anyone can compost. This is a picture from our kickoff in 2016 at Harvest Hope Food Bank. You'll note, like I said, I'm not in that picture. This is from a film screening we did of the Wasted documentary. We try to come up with fun, super engaging things to do within the community. So the Wasted documentary, famously sort of narrated and produced by Anthony Bourdain before his untimely demise. We did a screening at our local independent movie theater in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. and had sort of a Q&A with some restaurant folks and DHEC and some other friends of ours. And we developed a ton of material. Just every question we got, we developed some material for it. So we have a guide for reducing food waste at home. We have a guide for backyard composting. We have a lot of quick tip sheets for folks who don't feel like reading. You know, sometimes you look at 30 pages and you go, that's a lot. How about just a rec card with 5 things that I can do? We've just continually revised and come up with new things. So that's sort of the history of things. Once we decided we wanted to do something about this problem, we really decided the next step was to figure out who we needed to get on board with us. If there's anyone on this call who's looking to start something, we learned a lot of lessons. We started by developing our ambassador campaign. We didn't want to be guys who walk in and say, well, here's what you do and here's what you don't do, and we're in charge. That's not really our vibe. So what we did was develop a campaign where it belongs to everyone who's doing something. Like I said, we all know, everyone in this room knows that everyone has the ability to change their behavior to make a difference. Even if that's just, you know, knowing that you're gonna want to eat fast food once a week, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just plan for that. So the ambassador program is really easy. We just ask people what it is they're doing. As long as they're doing one thing, they're part of the team. We ask that they promote what they're doing. Say, hey, I'm here and I'm doing this thing. And then we just ask them to fill out a short questionnaire so that we can then turn around and celebrate what they're doing via our social media channels and the DHEC website. You know, as a state government agency, it's not always easy to sort of, technically we cannot promote anyone. So we found that success stories are sort of not a loophole for that, but a way that we can talk about people and how great they are. So once we had sort of a list of who we were going for, we decided to start sharing the campaign. We went after existing contacts in our office. And once we sort of reached out to everyone we already knew, we started asking who else we could talk to. We gave presentations. We had someone affectionately call our team the Dog and Pony Show, and we traveled the state to anyone who would listen. We presented to regional hospital association meetings. I mean, we've presented to audiences of 2. We've presented to audiences of a couple hundred. It just, we didn't say no to basically any opportunity. We also put a lot of time and effort into our social media, which we still are. Most of our Food Waste Prevention Week stuff is social media based or has a social media element. That is our biggest area of engagement, particularly Instagram. And honestly, I have learned from some of the folks in my office how to be shameless. So I am not afraid to cold call or cold email people and just say, here's what we're doing and here's what we'd like from you. Some of our key ambassadors who made everything actually possible are our Department of Commerce and our Department of Agriculture. They were our founding partners. They helped us to get the whole thing started and figure out where we should start. Our Department of Education has been a pivotal, partner in everything. They made it so that we were able to get share tables into our K-12 schools, which is a huge deal. And I'm figuring that most folks in this room know that teaching children how to improve this kind of behavior is what leads to actual change. So for us, the Department of Health is part of our, well, currently is part of our entities, and we know that's not normal. We do encourage anyone who's looking to get started on this to go after their Department of Health and get them on board, because usually when we talk to folks, if we tell them that they can donate, they say, yeah, but DHEC says we can't. And then we say, but we are DHEC, and we say, you can't. So that's a conversation we had. grocers and restaurants are our most challenging asks unless they're local, independent, sort of small-scale grocers. A lot of franchised or chains are sort of operated on a structural level. They operate on a store level and they'll work with you a little bit, but they can't sell your logo or they won't let you have their logo. So these are difficult conversations that we've been trying to have, and I think that's one of the next steps that I really want to tackle. And being in South Carolina, our colleges really just push the envelope on everything. They're the ones driving all elements of all environmental endeavors for us. So we really look to them as leaders and sort of push them and give them a platform in speaking in all this. There was a shift where we had been including composting as prevention, but that definition kind of got pivoted just a bit. So we shifted to, and now we focus on prevention and donation, and we have taken our composting program, and that has a separate program manager in our office now, but we work closely in conjunction, and we still include commercial composters and folks who are doing composting as ambassadors because it's all part of the same loop, and we do want to close it. So for the future, this might just be a picture of my future. But what we're working on that we care about the most right now is this week. I have been working nonstop for 6 months to put on the best week that we can. What we're doing besides speaking with you today, we're going to our University of South Carolina's Healthy Carolina Farmers Market tomorrow, where they sell produce from their sustainability garden, and we're going to talk to folks there. Then the next day we're having our first ever Don't Waste Food SC Ambassador Day, where we're bringing all of our ambassadors from across the state into one, well, not into one room. We're going to have it at our minor league baseball park, but we're going to bring them all together and sort of just open conversations. It's just going to be informal. We're going to break bread and talk about what's happened, what's happening, mostly what problems we're running into, and see who can help each other. We have everyone from colleges to local governments to small businesses to large businesses, nonprofits like soup kitchens and food banks. We have a ton of folks who we're hoping can take each piece of their puzzle and put them together to make sure that any food that any of these folks have doesn't go to waste. So I'm really excited about that. And then we also have a Don't Pitch It, Pickle It class with our Clemson Extension Service on Friday, where we're going to go out to the farmers market in Florence County and just sort of one-on-one with some residents about how to make quick pickles, because a lot of folks are intimidated by the process of a water bath and canning, and that seems very scary, and oh my gosh, that's going to explode. So we're just going to teach them how to do some quick pickles to use up those vegetables that they have in the fridge, and hopefully we're going to take that piece and sort of use it for other things later on. Other than that, we have many social media pieces, as I mentioned, that we're doing this week. So if you want to check us out, please do. After this week and a very long sleep, I will be reevaluating everything. We want some measurements. We want a way to actually track our progress besides just, number of ambassadors. We want to develop some metrics, and we want to grow in ways that make sense. So we're going to sort of pause and look at where we are and look at where we want to go and figure out the best ways to get there. So this is our Chief Ambassador, Winston. He's my dog. If you have any questions or you want to just reach out and tell me what your metrics look like, tell me, I think that pickling idea is great. Hey, help me figure out how to do that. Whatever you like. These are the ways to get a hold of me and the campaign. And if you want to see any of our social media pieces, we've developed a ton and we're sharing some. So you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Don't Waste Food SC. So yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks, Ada, so much for your great presentation. I apologize. A lot of the gifts weren't actually moving, but I think everybody got the gist of what they were. But it's like I said, after every single presentation, it's so nice to see what all the other states are doing, especially that surround my state of Tennessee. It's just a breath of fresh air when it comes to the great issue that is food waste. So that does it for this first presentation or webinar for Food Waste Prevention Week. Now we had a couple, we don't really have any questions, so if you have questions, remember you can put your hand up with that little hand emoji if you want me to unmute you, and you can ask those questions to our speakers or send those in the chat box and I can read those. We had a couple comments. One I think was about your presentation, Kim. It says the Food Too Good to Waste peer network is an amazing group with access to excellent resources. I highly recommend joining. So a pat on the back for that, and you know, if you haven't heard of that peer network, look into it and see if it can help you in your state with food waste. And then also we had a comment, I think this was for your presentation, Wendy. It says, love the dancing pair. So there's a lot of everyone's enjoying all of the presentations. I got another comment that says great job, and then another comment that says excellent kickoff. So number one, thanks everyone for being a part of the kickoff for Food Waste Prevention Week. We're excited that we get to be here, and also here is on the screen you can see the SaveTheFoodFL.com and also at SaveTheFoodFL. So we've got another presentation that is going to be coming on at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, and that is going to be covering the role policy plays in reducing food waste. We're going to have Molly Cohen and the high school junior group that is going to be talking about policy and the case study that they did. So we're going to keep this presentation on. So if you just want to go grab some lunch and just keep this on your screen, we're going to be coming back, like I said, in about 45 minutes to an hour to kick that off. So keep us on if you want to, or you can sign off and just sign back on with that same link that you had to join this. So we really appreciate everyone, and we hope you have a great Food Waste Prevention Week.
Thanks, Caleb. Appreciate your help.